This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry. Have you ever felt like no one really gets what you're going through? Well, you are not alone. It's time for Mental Health Matters with Viking Psychiatry, and we are going to talk about it today with their owner, Sean Goddard. Hello, Sean.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Okay, so when we're thinking about feeling alone and thinking about connection with community, how do those two really relate to each other?
A lot to it. You know, when we feel alone, it really has an emotional response to an emotional trigger for us. Not feeling alone has been shown to activate reward centers and emotional centers. You know, you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone, but having somebody that truly understands you, respects you, doesn't judge you, having somebody there for you and not being alone can absolutely change somebody's overall mentality and emotional and reward response system.
Yeah, and especially in this digital world where, you know, everything is so just phone, disconnect. People are not picking up the phone and making phone calls anymore. They're not spending more time one-on-one or in person. It really can feel like an isolation that happens, especially for those who live alone. And so let's talk about just like isolation and how people can still feel it, even if they are social people that's out and about. How do those two correlate?
Yeah, really, it's about those individuals understanding you. It's funny, last week I was out doing a guest lecture at a university here in Indiana to a bunch of students going through a program, and one of the conversations that I had with them in this group of like 30 students is, as they're all sitting around these community desks, you're surrounded by people every single day, right? But how often are you actually looking up? How often are you making connections, eye connection, emotional connection? Do you really understand who that individual is that's sitting at the table with you and what they're going through? Mental health is very hard, but when you're surrounded by people, it doesn't mean you're surrounded by people that understand you, right? And we often feel this need or desire to present a certain way, right? Or to act a certain way. There are plenty of people that are around us every single day that are depressed, lonely, isolated, right? That you might not know they feel that way because when they're around you, their defense mechanism is to be the joker in the room, right? And laugh and make fun of themselves, right? And all those types of things. But inside, they're struggling deeply and they feel alone.
Yeah, that's so true. And even people can make other people feel good and be social to other people, check in on other people to make sure that they're okay, but then people don't do it back and they don't realize that you're a human too and have feelings and can feel alone. And so what is an example of like being a part of a group to where, you know, where you're kind of talking about being able to connect on a larger level? Like, so we talked about isolation while being social, but what about being a part of a group and how that can make a difference?
Yeah, some of the, you know, I've talked about individualized therapy on the program before, but for people who feel alone, right, sometimes the best thing they can do is group therapy because there is strength in knowing other people feel the way that you feel, right? To not feel isolated in your emotions and your feelings. Some of the best healing or recovery that I've seen occur can be in group interactions because when you sit with people that are going through what you're going through and you understand that you're not alone in what you're going through and that other people are struggling, that alone provides strength to individuals to talk even more and express even more and begin to understand what they're feeling and how they're presenting and how they can make a difference in their life. And so when they're surrounded by people who don't necessarily understand them, right, that they can begin to express, right? I can sit down and have a conversation with you and say, Jessica, I know you feel like I'm this happy-go-lucky guy, but I've really been struggling lately, right? And I apologize if I've been snippy or short, right? And having understanding that it's okay to feel that way and feeling strength and being able to express yourself. You know,
Yeah.
we've talked before that other people might have expectations, but it's about your own internal expectations and your own internal goals, and being able to communicate clearly and effectively, and bringing people in closer to you. You never know, that individual that you might think is distant and cold
Right.
is struggling with the same thing, and that individual, when you begin to communicate with them, might become your new best friend.
Yeah. So you're saying showing vulnerability through conversations when you're connecting with folks. And then what about when you say community, being out in the community or surrounding yourself with people that understand you better? That is a concerted effort too that people would have to make. And so I think sometimes, what is it? The law of motion of, like, when you're inactive, it's easier to stay inactive. So does that really apply with isolation? When you're isolated, people stay more isolated. It takes a lot of initiative to get around people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a grand fear of being judged nowadays. We constantly feel like we're being assessed and we're being judged by all the people around us, and social media and TV and all those things have had a significant impact on that. And when we're afraid to be ourselves, it prevents us from being able to enjoy life and to live like we talked about. And so, you know, the message that I have comes back again to you are enough. You are perfect just the way you are. And if you begin to express yourself, and do it in a therapeutic setting first, right, where you feel safe to be able to present and talk and work through, and with like-minded individuals who are going through the same thing. And then you can begin to do that in other environments with more strength, and hopefully not feel so alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sean.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. As Sean said, you are not alone, and you are perfect just how you are. And so that's why Mental Health Matters is so important, to have these conversations. And so if you would like more information about Viking Psychiatry, we'll have their website listed below, and I'll see you after the break.
This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry.